So last lesson, we talked about how to find the surface area of rectangular prisms, where all six faces are made up of rectangles, and how to find the surface area of cubes, where all the six faces are made up of squares. And then we looked at a few where we sort of pushed some cubes together or pushed some rectangular prisms together. We're going to look at two more three-dimensional shapes, three-dimensional figures. Triangular prisms. Okay. Triangular prisms always have five faces. Two identical triangles on the end, three rectangles as the sides, connecting. And then we're going to look at cylinders, which have two circles on the end, and then a curved portion connecting them. Now, there's really no sort of specific formula for area of a triangular prism. But I'll say it like this. The surface area of a triangular prism. Well, if we look at the triangles on the end, the dimensions we use for triangles are base and height usually. And how do we find the area of a triangle again?
Base times height divided by 2.
Base times height divided by 2, right? So that would find the area of this front one. But there's an identical one at the back, right? So what would I do with this?
You times it by 2.
Times it by 2. What do you notice about the twos? I've got a times 2 and a divide 2.
What is it?
Yeah, they cancel each other out. So really, to find the two triangles on the end, you just do base times height. And then it's plus the areas of the three rectangles that connect to the two triangles on the end. Sometimes all three of those rectangles will be identical. Sometimes two of them will be the same, one will be different. Sometimes all three will be different. It all depends on the triangles at the end. We'll look at an example. Okay? For a cylinder, well, the circles on the end, we always want to know the radius. So for the surface area of a cylinder, and again, you will be given these formulas. I'm more concerned about whether you know how to use them than whether you know how to memorize them. How do we find the area of one of the circles on the end? What's the formula for area of a circle? Well, do we remember? R squared. But there's two circles, aren't there? So I'm going to times it by 2. That takes care of these two. Now, what about the curved part in the middle? How do we find the surface area of a curved part? Well, think of it like this. Let's say this is a cylinder without the circles on the ends. If I sliced the curved part and open it up, what shape? A rectangle. And isn't this the circumference of the circle? Doesn't that equal the circumference of the circle? And how do we find the circumference? 2 pi r. So that's the length of the rectangle. And then to find the area, I times it by the height. So it's going to be, this is the length of the curved portion. This is the height. So that's how I find the area of the curved portion. And then to find the total, I just add them together. These will make more sense when we do some examples. Okay? But like I said, I'm going to give you rectangular prism, cube, triangular prism, and cylinder. Exactly as we talked about them yesterday and today. So let's look at some examples. Here we have a triangular prism. If I look at the triangle at the front, the base is what? The height is 12, right? Okay. And then there's three rectangles, aren't there? There's one here, there's one here, and there's one at the bottom. Maybe it'd be better if I actually did this. That's actually the rest of it. You just can't see those edges. So to find the surface area, base times height divided 2. So 10 times 12 divided 2. And I'm going to write this, but then there's 2 of the triangles, so I times 2, right? But the 2's cancel out. So I've done the triangles. What about the rectangles? Let's look at this one. What's the length and width of this one? Length is
14.
Height
30.
or width is 13. So this will give me the area of one of them, right? Are there any other rectangles that are the same? This one, right? This one's the same, 14 by 13. So I'm just going to times it by 2. But the one on the bottom is different, isn't it? What's the length? Look at the bottom one. What's the length? 14. What's the width? 10. So it's 14 times 10. And then I add all those faces together to get the total surface area. So that's going to give me 120 plus
364.
364, thank you, plus 140 equals, say, okay, 500.
What, I got 600. Yeah. God, I don't know. I'm just guessing. I mean, no, I didn't ask you. No.
Okay.
Me only.
624. Thank you.
I will count it all. Not my bad.
There we go. And don't forget the units are always squared. Sadie.
So it's the surface area, the kind of surface area of the whole shape that's basically how this.
For a cylinder?
Yeah.
I didn't hear that.
So like wondering if like part of the surface area.
Yeah.
You could find the circumference of the whole shape.
Yeah, it's like that. It's like the perimeter.
Yeah.
All the faces around. Yeah, you're right.
I'll just do that.
Yes, you don't have to ask. You can just. Okay, so that's a triangular prism. Let's look at a cylinder. So what we're really doing here is you'll be given the formula. So remember the surface area for a cylinder is 2 pi r squared plus 2 pi r h, which means I have to fill in the values of r and h. What's r? 6. So 2 times pi times 6 squared plus 2 times pi times 6 times 8. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, remember, what do I do here first? Exponent or multiplication? Exponent. So it's going to be 2 times pi
times 36 plus 2 times 5, and I can multiply 6 by 8 to get
48.
48.
Now you could use your calculator if you want. So 2 times, and I'm going to use the pi key, so that's going to give me a slightly different answer than if you use 3.14. But I should get somewhere 226.19 for this one.
I just did this. And I'm going to go 2 decimal places. It doesn't say how many decimal places.
I'm just going to go 2. Then I'm going to do 2 times the pi key times 48. And I'm going to get 301.59 if I go to 2 decimal places. And then I'm going to add those together to get the final answer of 301.59 plus 226.19 gives me 527.78. And this is feet squared. Yes. This times this times this. You don't think I did it correctly? Oh, how did I do it? On my calculator. So you got a calculator? Show you exactly how. You don't have your calculator. Okay. So 2, right, times multiply. Now, actually, just do 3.5 minus multiply. Oh. No. I can go from fraction to.
Oh,
Oh, you got 326.08. I got a little bit of a different answer because I used a different number. But that's good. Okay? Yeah. There you go. Okay. So what happens when we combine some shapes? Well, this looks like a combination, if I were to cut like this, a triangular prism on the top and a rectangular prism on the bottom put together. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to find the area of all the faces and add them together. Okay? So let's look at the front. And I'm going to do this in different colors so you can see what I'm doing. So I'm going to find the area of this triangle. Part of this face. What's this length? 8. What's this height? You got to look at the entire figure. This is 10. It looks like 5, but is it 5? Look at the other side that's vertical. It's 6, because this is 4, which means this must be 6. So to find the area of that triangle, base times height divided 2. But there's 2 of them, right? One at the back.
So I'm gonna times by 2, and those 2's cancel out. So I've done this and a triangle at the back. Let's look at this. This, how do I find the area of this rectangle? What are the numbers? 8 times 4, yes. But there's 2 of them, aren't there? One, same one at the back. So times by 2. So I've done the front here, and I've done the back. So let's pick other sides that we haven't done yet. Let's pick this one.
How would I find the area of that? 3 times 4.
Yeah. Sure. How would I find the area? Well, hello. Didn't give me a hint. Oh, I see.
I have to do it. Try it this way.
Ah. There.
How about that one? Yep.
3 times 10 or 10 times 3. And I've got one more side, right? This one. So 1 green. So this one back here. 10 by 3. Yep. And then I add all those together. Yeah.
Technically, since there's 2 10 by 3, even if it's not the same thing, can we just do 2?
Yes, absolutely you can, if you recognize that those 2 are different.
So now we're ready to do the calculations. 8 times 6 is 48. 2 times 8 times 4 gives us 64. Plus 3 times 4, which is 12. Plus 10 times 3, which is 30. Plus another 10 times 3, which is 30. And then I add those all up.
And I should get my final answer. And 208.
Yeah, I'll do it.
What happened?
Equals 184. Was that right? That's right.
Yeah, I don't put any 4.
Because like,
I think my notes are wrong.
if you put 2 and 8, that would be a 10, and then there's 4 left.
So let's just make sure we've got everything. So this is 8 times 6 divided 2 times 2. This is 8 times 4 times 2 for the back. This is 3 times 4, there's only 1. This is 10 times 3, this, yeah, I must have done it correctly. You got it right. 184 centimeters. Oh! I knew it! Curses. Now I need another color. Good call. Good call.
That's what?
8 times 3. So we just need to add that. So plus 24. So I am. 208 centimeters squared.
Well done. Yeah. Okay. The last one. We've got a cake. That's made up of 2 cylinders. Okay. Let's assume that we are going to frost everything that we see here. We're not going to frost in between the layers. We'll put something else there. Okay. Students always argue, well, why aren't you going to frost between them? Just let me do the question. Okay. Just like eat your cheese and let me do the question. Nothing. I'm just noticing you eating your cheese. Nothing wrong with it. But we are going to frost the bottom. I know. Okay. So let's just assume that we're going to, like this cake is floating in midair. And we're going to frost everything that we see. Okay. We're not going to split it apart. We're just going to cover it in frosting and it's hanging in midair. Because we're going to suspend this cake to make it look good. It's going to be like a nice looking cake in a bakery. Okay. And I'm going to stick with that story. So how do we find the surface area? Remember what we did with the rectangles yesterday, rectangular prisms? We split them apart, found the surface area of each, and then put them together and subtracted away what got hidden. Okay. So let's split them apart. There it is. So let's call this one the first one. This is the second one. And let's find the surface area of each. So the surface area of number 1, remember the formula, 2 pi r squared plus 2 pi rh. And you'll have access to that formula. What's the radius of the top one? Careful. Radius. 7, right? So 2 times pi times 7 squared plus 2 times pi times 7 times the height of that layer, 5. Then we get 2 times pi times 49. 7 squared is 49. 2 times 5 times 35. The 7 times 5 is 35. And now we can use our calculator. So remember, you may get a slightly different answer than me because if you use 3.14, which is okay. So like if I did 2 times 3.14 times 49, I get 307.72 for the first one. And I would get 2 times 3.14 times 35, 219.8 for the second one. But because I'm using the pi key, which is a little more accurate, I'm going to get a little bit of a different answer. I'll show you. So this is actually going to be, when I use the pi, 307.88. If you use 3.14, it'll be a little bit different, but that's okay. Pi key is right there. So 2 times pi key times 49. You can get the series. Yeah.
You want us to write the answer from 2 pi times 49 and then write that.
Or just the total answer. I don't know. You don't, if you want to go from here to the final answer, that's fine. I'm just showing you how we get these two values. So 2 times pi times 35, rounded to 2 decimal places, is 219.191. And when I add those together, 307.88 plus 219.91 gives me 5.779. And this is centimeters squared. Now I gotta do number 2 basically the same way, except the only difference, the radius this time will be for number 2.
Oh.
13. So the surface area of number 2 is going to be 2 times pi times 13 squared plus 2 times pi times 13 times the height of 5, which gives me 2 times pi times 169, because I have to square first, plus 2 times pi times 65. Now I'm ready to use my calculator. 2 times pi times 169 gives me 1061.86 if I round to 2 decimal places. And 2 times pi p times 65 gives me 408.81 if I round. Which gives me, yeah.
I got 408.4.
Did you use 3.14?
No, I used 5.
The pi key?
Yeah.
Okay, let me double check mine. 2 times pi key times 65. Oh, 41, right?
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm wrong. You're right. 41. 1061.86 plus 408.41 gives you 1,470.27 centimeters squared.
I thought 6, 7.
Did you use the pi key? Or did you use 3.14?
There is no.
You'll have a pi key on yours.
It just may be hard to line.
But you don't need to do the monkey in order to.
Oh, you just added those two. Did I make that?
Yeah.
Oh my God. What did I do? 1061.86 plus 408.41. No, that's a shot.
I'm confused. I got 8, 6.
8.6 for here.
No, for the. Did you subtract? Oh,
1061.86 plus 408.41. Good? Okay. Okay, so we're still not done because now we have to put the layers back together.
So define, yes, define the total surface area.
We have to add the two surface areas we found, 527.79 plus 1470.27. But remember when we put two objects together, two faces disappear, don't they?
What disappears? What disappears? 2 circles, right?
Two of those circles are going to disappear.
How much is one of the circles? Pi r squared, which is pi times 7 squared. So pi times 7 squared, but 2 of them disappear. So I have to times by 2. And I'm subtracting this.
So you got to be careful with that.
So this is going to give me 527.79 plus 1470.27 minus,
Remember, we do the 7 squared first.
so it's going to be 2 times pi times 49. So 2 times pi times 49, which gives me 307.88.
And now I'm almost done.
So 527.79 plus 1,470.27 minus 307.88 should give me a final answer of 1,690.18. Don't forget your units.
Centimeters squared.
Okay.
I would suggest when you get ones like this, where you're combining like 2 rectangular prisms or a cube and a cylinder, or a cylinder and a rectangular prism, or 2 cylinders, split them up, find the surface area of each, add it all together, and then subtract away what disappears.
Okay.